Hello and welcome in to another Monday Night live stream. Sorry I missed last week. Was just feeling under the weather, so I decided to take a break for a week, but I'm back. Um, let's see who is here, and then we'll get started with the topics tonight. We have David as first, as usual. Tony is second. We have Eric as third. Um, Joe is here. Bob is here. I assuming none from vacation. I could be wrong. Um, yeah, and so I posed this question earlier. Has anyone actually been watching the tornado coverage from Oklahoma? It's uh, it's just very fascinating to watch weather coverage. Having worked in television or having working in television to know what it takes to do weather coverage, watching other stations do weather coverage, and the amount of resources that Oklahoma stations put towards it is just kind of interesting. So I was just curious if anybody else was actually watching it. Eric says no, but yes, it's supposed to be pretty bad from now until like 4 a.m. Hank is here. Welcome in, Hank. Um, I actually thought about, and we may later, we'll see. Um, I don't have much of a plan for this live stream, so we'll just kind of see how it goes. But I thought it might be interesting to watch some of their coverage and kind of go over things that I notice as a broadcaster, and I'm curious to know if you were to notice the same thing. So, um, so let me change one thing. I forgot to start something. All right. So, as David puts in the chat, how's the TrueNAS going? So, if you remember from like I don't know 4 weeks ago, how long has it been? Been a while. I decided to upgrade my TrueNAS core machine to TrueNAS scale, and that part didn't have it didn't go the smoothest, but it did work. The issue I had was when I went to go add a mirror device to the boot pool, and then kind of all hell broke loose. So I was like, you know what? Fine. I'll reboot. I'll rebuild the machine. So during, I think it was one of Jeremy's live streams, I tried rebuilding the machine several times and it didn't work because it turns out, and this is I'm sure an issue that only I'm gonna have, is that my machine does not boot NVMe drives on because it doesn't know what they are. It has no problem reading them once an OS boots, but it doesn't actually boot, doesn't read them on boot. So can't boot from the PCIe card that I bought, which has an NVMe drive on it that I bought. So that was kind of a waste of money at this point. So I went and said, okay, well, you know, maybe the newer computer over here can. So I moved I moved all the hardware, I should say, the hard drives and the PCI drive to a newer machine, and it has the same exact problem. Even though it's like 4 years newer or 3 years newer, it has the same problem. So I'm like, okay, fine. So there's no booting to PCIe cards. So I tried to install. Hello, Alonzo. Welcome in. And so I tried to install it on USB sticks. And I know TrueNAS Scale says not to do that, but I was just at this point, I have a 4 drive array. All the SATA ports in the machine are being used. So I really didn't have any option at this point. And so, sorry, it's getting warm down here. I'm going to turn the air down on my phone once it connects. if it connects. Weird. Anyway, so I installed it to 2 USB drives, and then things were just dirt slow. I was like, why is this thing running like crap? Like, it shouldn't be running this bad. So in troubleshooting, I realized that I had a bad USB stick. So I pulled the bad USB stick out, installed on a new one, and it still was slow. I was like, this is just crazy. Why is it so bad, so slow? So I said, well, what if I got a USB container, like a USB holder or enclosure, put the NVMe drive in a USB enclosure? I could do USB 3 speeds, but at least the drive itself would be an NVMe. And that actually works. So currently it's booting off of a USB connected NVMe drive, and it is fast-ish, and it is working correctly. So, welcome in, Jeremy. So, yes, so I'm on a NVMe drive in a USB 3 enclosure. It's not ideal. I understand this, but it is working. Now, welcome in, Jacob. So basically, I'm kind of like not doing the recommended approach, but at least it's a real hard drive as opposed to a USB stick, and it is working. Now, the funny part is, and I realize this in saying this now, I did a test with just the USB NVMe drive and a one standalone hard drive, and that was super fast, like super fast. I was very impressed with the speeds. But now as I'm describing this, I realize why, because that was an SSD drive. This is a 4-drive array made up of Western Digital Reds. So they're not the fastest drives. I think that's my issue, is that I'm using 4 red drives in a RAID 1, a Z1. And so while things are fast, they're not as fast as they would be if the storage was an SSD or even normal hard drives, not red NAS drives. So where do we go from here? Well, I currently have some birthday money. I already have one 6 terabyte red NAS drive, so I'm contemplating getting a second one, or I guess 2 more, I should say, and doing a pool of 3 reds, and that way I can actually boot off of an SSD drive internally and get rid of the USB 3. I'm considering using some money and buying the Ugreen NAS, because I read that you can, or I watched a YouTube video where you can install TrueNAS on the Ugreen boxes. That seems ideal to me, because from what I can tell from other reviews, including Tony, who's done a review, the hardware is good. It's just the software is bad, and I don't really want to use their software. I want to use TrueNAS. So I feel like maybe getting the Ugreen hardware would be a better approach, a better step in the right direction, towards a actual good system. And so, but that's 400 and some bucks if you join the Kickstarter. So, yeah. So I don't know. And of course, my first thought is also, whenever I build an NAS, is like, okay, how do I back it up? Well, so if I start doing, right now my TrueNAS is how big is it? Hold on, I'm gonna go call it up for a second. or in a second once I get the page loaded. Yeah, so oops. So this is my current TrueNAS box. Running Dragonfish is the latest version, which this true version of TrueNAS does fix the memory issue. So it's using all of the memory it can in cache, which is great. I did notice that was kind of interesting. The first time I installed this would not work. Like it would show 000 no matter what it was doing. This magically started working one day. Like I just came in here and all of a sudden I noticed that this was working, which it hadn't been previously. So I thought that was kind of interesting how it just randomly popped on. So for storage, I am looking at, I'm basically half full. And so, anytime you do a NAS, you basically need to think about like, hey, how do you back up a NAS? And so currently, I only have 5 terabytes available, and so I'm thinking to myself, if I upgrade to 6 terabyte drives, even if I do a 3-drive array, then I'm looking at 12 terabytes, and assuming I use even half of that, which I think I will once I get my Plex library converted, or my DVD library converted to Plex, I should say. How do you back it up? And so I don't have a second NAS to back it up. I did build this little Raspberry Pi remote array or remote RAID box, but that only has like, I don't know, was it 1 or 2 terabytes of space? So basically that's going to back up and then my Nextcloud, and that's it. So yeah, so basically that's kind of where my TrueNAS is right now. It works. It's not ideal. I did find Bob, and I think I talked to you about this before. I did find somebody who did a whole video on Plex and all the add-ons you can do inside of TrueNAS, and kind of walks you through step by step how to do it all in TrueNAS, which I think is great. I'd love to, install Plex and all the plugins, add-on plugins, and get that working inside of TrueNAS. So yeah, so that's what my TrueNAS is. So let's go back to the chat before we go on. Again, I said welcome to Alonzo, Jacob, Jeremy. You're welcome for that birthday money. Did you send me money and I missed it? Ugreen is pretty tempting, yes. Have they fixed? Yes. I believe somebody did a video on, yes, you can get into BIOS and you can disable the watchdog. I forget how they did it, but they did it. I don't like to use money. But that's a whole different conversation. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. Like I said, I'm weighing it all. Yes, please do like the stream. As Joe says, we can go check our stats. Currently 10 viewers, 6 likes. I should give you guys an update. I forgot to do this before. Because I didn't stream last week. I currently sit at 1,575 subscribers. My watch hours did jump quite a bit. I think it was 28. It was 28.29 or 28.37. I can't remember now. But it's fallen back in the last couple of days down to 28.11. So we're definitely up there. It's funny, most of my old videos are getting most of my views. My FM transmitter tour video, still very popular. One of my shorts with vMix became very popular all of a sudden. Rivendell got us a couple likes, or views. So it's the old videos that are kind of getting more views all of a sudden, which is helpful. So yes, you can turn off the. Ooh, Tony says he's thinking about installing Proxmox on the Ugreen. That one I had not heard of yet, but that is curious. That would make a good live stream. In case you missed it, Tony did a great live stream on Thursday where he unboxed some new hardware. It was very entertaining. I have to agree with Joe. I wish Tony did more streams, but I also understand that time is an issue sometimes, and keeping them to once a month makes them unique. So, yes, David says you can turn off the Watchdog timer. Ugreen is not available in Kazakhstan. Too bad. So yeah, let's talk about Nextcloud. I did upgrade to version 29. It is working beautifully. I'm currently on version 29, Nextcloud Hub 8. So in a previous stream, we talked about Nextcloud and how it was slow, or maybe that was Jeremy's stream. I confuse my streams sometimes. The key for me on getting Nextcloud to work was to install the app. Oh my God, where's the apps? Apps. And I want to make sure I get the name right, because in case you guys like Nextcloud or want to try it out, this is a must if you got files, is Preview Generator. So my issue was when I was on my phone or on the web page and I'd open up a directory, it would take forever for me to see preview images of the pictures. And so I didn't know what I was clicking on, because I don't rename every picture I download or I save to a usable name that makes sense. So I found this preview generator tool that runs, and it took me over a day the first time I ran it to make sure all the previews were rendered. And now I run it as a cron tab, which if you want to see more about cron tab, Jeremy did a stream last night about cron tab. But now I run in cron tab a task every 30 minutes to generate previews, and it only does it on files that have changed. So now when I open up a directory, I see a preview, all my image previews right away. I click on it, they load. It is so much faster. It is what I've been trying to get Nextcloud to be for a while now. And so it also cleaned up my error logs, because a lot of my errors I was noticing were it trying to make preview files and not being able to write to the folder for whatever reason, and therefore that was most of what my errors were. So running Preview Generator has sped up Nextcloud and made my error logs cleaner. I still get some error logs, I'm not quite sure why, but overall, much better. And I just realized my color is off again. What is wrong with, I gotta fix that. I don't know, whatever. Anyway. So 12 current viewers, 8 likes. I appreciate that. Let's go back to chat. So yeah, so hopefully that answers your question about Nextcloud. Yes, we YouTube giveth, YouTube taketh. Yes, it turns out missing a week definitely hurts your viewership. I also watched a guy this week on YouTube who I want to say had like 130 something subscribers. He posted a video about his home lab. It's an insane home lab. It's more like a data center. And at last check, I think the guy had 6,700 subscribers. Like went from like 130 something to 6,700 plus in a week. All because he did a video on Home Lab. So if you didn't recognize the title, Home Lab, so maybe you can get some viewers. Who knows? Yeah, no, it definitely reset because it's definitely cool now. Yeah, and YouTube mostly taketh. He's not wrong. Yes, you're not wrong, Bob. No, I've never used Nextcloud Talk. No, I take it back. I tried it out once. I did set it up. I made a phone call, um, from like one device to a different device, and I was like, great, it works, and that's it. I've never used it ever since then. I have no use for it. Really and honestly, Nextcloud is only for me really to get access to my files or my photos remotely. Because the way I do it is every device has content on it, and then I sync all three of my devices to Nextcloud. So one copy lives on the device, one copy lives on Nextcloud, and then my phone is just got the Nextcloud client. It goes, or I can go in and access any of my devices and grab my files, and can view them, because I find myself often wanting to view a picture or reference back to something before, but I don't want to have to keep the files on here. I have too much content. But I'm always like, hey, I want to go back to that picture from a year ago, or whatever it is, and therefore it's like, so I want all my content to be available, and in theory backed up. But then I don't want to have, like, I don't want to run sync thing, because I don't want I don't want to have to like files live in different places, and I want the web GUI. Like, I have to be able to get in and access my files from a from an app or from a web page, and I don't want to have to go like into sync thing and whatnot. And I want my stuff backing up, even though like this laptop may be off. I can back up my Nextcloud server off site every night and keep up any changes without having to have the machine on to do a backup job. So, one video in your Linus Tech Tips. Yeah, I mean, could. I actually watched a couple of his videos today. I know it's an act, but damn, some of that server stuff they do. They get some pretty cool servers, and they have some pretty cool stuff, but their little bits about not knowing how to do things and whatnot are just sometimes make it hard to watch. But yeah, content, the stuff they're playing with is pretty cool. But yeah, that was a home data center. Yes, it was. Yeah, I probably should. I mean, I know several of you on this video or watching it now have Synology. Probably should look into that too. If well, I could drop I don't know. Here, I'll drop a tool. See? Oh, there you go. Did that get me watch? The like? Did that get me any viewers? Any likes? Did I lose you? I probably lost viewers. Tony says that he switched to Synology Photos 2 years ago. No regrets. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think you guys, I think multiple people on here have Synologies. I have one at work, a Synology that is. Maybe I should spin up photos on that one and just give it a shot. I have to buy a bulk bunch of CPUs off eBay. Does Synology scan photos and report analytics like iCloud? I can't imagine they do, but I don't know. Maybe somebody on here can answer that question. Well, I would hope not. I mean, I hope that it wouldn't report the stuff you have on there. Your firewall could obviously block it if you could figure out where it was reporting to. I kind of wanted the same thing. The funny thing was, is I was actually watching his server videos because he did his little like data center, if you will, and they have all the different servers with all the different storage and the 2 point whatever petabytes of storage that he has, and all the editors and people that he has, and I'm just going. I know a little bit about media and economics. There's something there that doesn't add up. I'm just saying. Yeah, I really hope Plex doesn't report stuff. I'm just saying. 3,000 photos of your dog. Are you saying Plex reports your stuff? How many, like, what movies you have? They send out emails to your subscribers about what your friends are watching. Do they really? That's a little scary. I'm not gonna lie. Welcome in, David. Okay, so they've gotten a ton of. Well, yeah, I can imagine. I've heard some horror stories of parents sending pics to a doctor of their offspring, then getting a knock at the door from an officer. Hmm. So this goes back to last night's stream where we talked about boxing and words you don't typically use. Offspring's not a word I typically hear. Just gonna throw that out there. Now, The Offspring was a great band from the '90s. Who are they still around? I could have swore I heard them that they were still doing something. You actually heard that? No, excuse me. I cannot talk tonight. You've actually heard of that happening? Wow. Um, well, that's not cool, and that's one reason not to like Apple, I guess, because um, that is definitely scary. And one reason, if Synology's doing that, that's not one thing I plan on ever getting. Then I'm not saying they are. I'm just if Synology is reporting your files, then I have a problem about that. I would like to think of the band. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Apple. We have no Apple products anymore. I got rid of my only Apple Mac a couple of years ago. So we are Apple free. We are not Google free, unfortunately. But I only use their services like YouTube, search, and unfortunately a phone. But I feel like they're the lesser of the two evils when it comes to phones. Bob says Synology is local. Okay. Yeah, all cloud providers do it, which is why I don't want to use the cloud. Because even if you pay for a service like Gmail, they're still reading your email and then selling your data on it. So therefore, what are you paying for? So, you know, and that's one reason I'm sorry, I will not use Gmail because I do not want Gmail reading my damn email. I have a Gmail address. Literally nothing goes to except for YouTube. And I think the North Dakota Republican Party, for some reason, I don't know why, I get emails for the North Dakota Republican Party inviting me to events on Gmail, and I'm like, I've never used this address for anything. How the hell did you get it? Ernesto, welcome in. 13 viewers. Wow, that's awesome. Google is almost inescapable. Just heard they're shutting down Google Fit. Ooh, that's a shocker. Google shutting off a service. I guess it kind of depends on your mindset, but I mean, I I don't like a locked garden where you have to follow their rules and only their rules, and so oh the pay. So they say. We just had another incident. I don't know, a couple days ago. Well, I guess it was longer than that. But we were discussing something, and all of a sudden we saw ads for that thing we were discussing, and we had never searched for it before. I had never heard of it before. I don't recall. So yeah. So and I paid for a Google phone, and I paid for things, and yet I see ads that I didn't search for. So Google sold Google Fit, or someone sold to Google. Because Google just sold off their domain service, which I actually was using, and I gotta change it now because I do dynamic DNS for like one entry, and now Squarespace or whoever the hell bought Google domains isn't supporting that. So yeah, what Google shuts down services, and this should be in all caps and bold. They all do it. Welcome in, Toro. Yep, not surprised. Like I said, I have definitely have had that happen before. They sold your G. Yep, somebody said. The funny part is I've literally told Google it's spam, and I've literally clicked on remove me from this link like 14 times, and they still have not removed me from it. So it's like, come on, like I think it and I see ads. I think you should. I wish I could do the same thing. I forget where you are, but maybe you could be like zone 1 and I could be zone 2. We could have the zones, you know, for redundancy. All right. So, I thought that, David. But then I'm thinking it's Google, and if I report it as spam, and hit the opt out button, that Google would be smart enough to realize I don't want it. And yet I kept getting the email constantly. So I'm thinking to myself, how good are these Google spam filters if I'm literally reporting it as spam and using the word opt out several times? So when they say Google spam filters are good, I question that, because literally half the email I was getting was spam, and I kept telling them it was spam. So it's pretty easy to figure out what's spam, and they couldn't figure it out. So, yeah, I was always like, this is just doesn't make sense to me why I can't get off this damn list when Google is supposed to be the best email provider out there. Proxmox SDN is a thing. Yes, it is. So is XCPNG SDN. Well, not really. It's a XCPNG can make a private tunnel to move your VMs around. Well, I mean, I've thought the same thing. And I guess it depends on your data. It also depends on like who you want to trust, because like, your best friend, is your best friend a technical person? Would he understand your procedures and your policies, how to get in? Because my best friend who lives nearby me is techie, but he's not that techie. So I don't know if he would understand that, but like, if somebody in this live stream, I could explain, okay, here's how my data is stored, here's how you could get to it, the password will be kept here, so on and so forth, and I could just simply say, Haley, if something happens to me, call David, or, call Joe or Tony or Bob or whoever and say, I need that data, or I want that data, help me get it. Maybe you could develop a system like that. I don't know. 'Cause I've actually thought about this before. Like, what happens to the data? What happens to the stuff that I want to give, or I want her to have going forward if something happens to me? Fortunately, or if you will, most of it right now is kind of split. Like, so everything on my TrueNAS is basically for me. There's nothing in there that like she doesn't have a copy of on her laptop. Not everything, but most of it is that way. So, but that's a good kind of thought process to have. Maybe we should talk about that more in terms of ideas. If you have an idea on how to do that, that'd be good to know, because that is a concern, and especially if you have encrypted data, then how do you decrypt it? Yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, David. The opt-out button doesn't work from Google. You have to press it. I'm pretty sure I clicked the unsubscribe button. I said opt-out, but I think it was the unsubscribe button. That being said, I don't think I've seen an email from them since the what was the new rule? The DN. God, I had to help Haley with hers. Whatever the new email rules are, I think once those went into effect, I have not seen a single email from them. Yeah, actually, I think that's true. So maybe yes, DKIM. That's what it was. Thank you, Eric. Ever since those rules went in, like I have not seen an email from them. Yes, I am aware that if you answer the phone from a junk call, Bob says delete my browser history. Set up your data so that any X number of Y people can decode it. So 3 out of 5 people have to agree. That'd be interesting. Or I wonder if you could make your password in 3 parts so that no one person knows the whole password, and then you'd have to get together and put the password together. You'd still have 3 people. Yeah, I don't know. That could be interesting too. Yeah, real search histories of the search engine. That's true. That is definitely true. I was using a Google. What Googleified phone were you using? Just curious. And yes, if you have business reasons to use an iPhone because it makes things easier, by all means, do what you need to do to make business work. Tony asked how many days and counting. David says 30. How does how does it know something happened to you? Just curious. I've never actually used Bitwarden. I've seen people do videos on it, but never actually used it. Ernesto has an iPhone. 15 viewers, 11 likes. That's awesome. It was a Pixel, but I was running Graphene OS. Okay. That could be interesting or fun little project to try. Family access with a preset email. You have 14 days or something to respond. If you don't respond, oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that working. That would be something. Um, at one point, this was a while ago, um, we basically had uh, my coworker and I, my boss at the time, I think basically we had backed up stuff to the same server, and basically was like, if anything happens, here's the data. Make sure the data gets to the significant other. Um, and so we had like kind of a system going because basically the data would go back since it was encrypted. Could not obviously see any of it. I guess she knew the password, like his wife did. I didn't back up anything that was important, or at least that wasn't important to Haley. So we never actually worked out that system, but that would be something too, or at least for files. Like if you know, you backed up your encrypted data to your friend's house, and then if your significant other had the password or the decryption password, then the two of you could work it out where you could decrypt the data. Because that's what I think is probably the biggest thing is like photos and whatnot. Um, you know, a lot of times if it's a bill or whatever it is, if you don't pay the bill, it'll just come in the mail and say, "Hey, this is you're late," and you call them and say, "Well, you know, my spouse died." So, but if the pictures or whatever are what you want and they're encrypted, then yeah, you kind of need to have somebody who can decrypt them. Shamar's secret sharing is an efficient secret sharing algorithm. Oh, so is this the Coke recipe thing where nobody has the whole thing? Yeah, I feel like that is. Huh. Well, that would definitely work. You just need to write a giant binder. Well, yes, that would be it would be a different issue. And chances are, if you had that issue, the police might want to be involved because you might have died under suspicious circumstances. I guess I just watched too much Dateline. So the HR office wanted it, but your 401k people are going to need to know it, and in theory, won't your HR office need to know it for? I guess you don't really need. Maybe there is no reason to have them. I guess I never really thought about it. I always thought they'd have to like send you stuff because when you're done, like, hey, here's your whatever. But I guess they wouldn't have to, would they? I like how it's you trust your spouse, a friend you trust, and then a lawyer. Not all lawyers are trustworthy though. If you go missing, people need your binder to keep getting work done. Well, I haven't seen that movie in a while. I'm thinking not of Da Vinci Code. I'm thinking of the movie with is that Da Vinci Code where there's the laser vault and you gotta do the dance to the music or whatever it is. Like there's, oh my god, am I combining movies or am I confusing movies? Um, yeah, I don't remember. You only expire if girlfriend or wife find out. Yeah. I think it was Ocean's 11. I think it's me what I'm thinking of. I think, yeah, I'm probably combining them like two movies into one thing. All right, so back on track. All right, so let's get back on track. Um, it wasn't a casino vault. It was a laser show or laser vault. There was some sort of dancing with music. I can hear the music in my head. It's not a casino vault. It was like a woman and a man, and the one was I don't remember. For all I know, I made the whole movie up. No, I'm pretty sure it's a real movie. All right, so we talked about TrueNAS. We talked about Nextcloud. Um, Another thing that I recently did was Zen Orchestra had a big update, and I wanted to throw this out there because I think it's relevant for those who are interested in XCP-ng. Um, so if we go, the one thing that I find interesting now is if we look at OBS one. So, sorry, hold on a second. Sorry about that. All right, so if we look at OBS one, which is what's doing the lower thirds for this stream, and we come down under advanced, we now have PCI pass-through from a GUI as opposed to doing it command line. So if you remember a couple, I don't know, months ago, we did PCI pass-through of the DECLink card into the VM. And now with this latest version of Zen Orchestra, it is actually reporting that the card is attached. And I believe with the new version of XCP-ng coming out soon, you'll be able to actually attach. Yeah, see, you can't actually attach it here, but once a new version comes out, the current version is 8.2, the new version is 8.3. Once that comes out, you'll be able to attach PCI devices in the GUI instead of having to do command line stuff. So I think that's a huge upgrade for XCP-ng. I think that'll bring a bunch of people over. Not a bunch, but that'll bring some people over who maybe like Proxmox because of the PCI pass-through. And now if XCP-ng can support it literally in a GUI, then that might, be the last thing for some people who are saying, I don't want to go over there yet because of that. So I think that's something to think about. So speaking of home lab, so this is my current state of, stuff. So I am running a virtual machine to run some Docker images. I have my FFmpeg test machine. I did follow along with Jeremy's stream and do Iventoy for Pixie booting, which is great. I was playing around with the Yorls. I forget. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but link shortener. It does work. I don't have a use case for it, but I was playing around with it. Obviously, Nextcloud, Nginx, I use as my RTMP reflector, basically, for something I run internally. I have two OBS installs inside of Windows machine. One's on host 1, one's on host 2. I have Plex. We talked about that earlier. My Rivendell test machine. I actually went to show this off to someone the other day, and part of it is broke. I don't recall why it's broke, or I should say I don't know how it broke, but it is currently broke. So I have to revisit that, which is weird. I am in fact going to be installing a Rivendell machine at the station. Our instant replay and our shortcut both died basically days apart due to SCSI drive failure. Yes, they're that old. They're SCSI drives. So I'm going to be installing Rivendell into the audio room, and we'll be using that instead of 1990s technology. I run Unify. I have a base image here. I also have, I have Zen Orchestra, the free version, which is the virtual appliance, and then I run Zen Orchestra, the open source version, which doesn't have every feature that the free version has, which is kind of funny. And then I run Zentel, or however you pronounce that, which is the Linux Active Directory server, and I haven't got back to that in a while, but I was going to play around with domain authentication in a Linux environment, but haven't got around to doing that. So while we're in here, one of the things that I thought was really cool that was announced and finally released was XOStore, and unfortunately that's only available in XOA. And so let me call up XOA and I can show you what that is, because I think it's pretty cool. I'm not saying anybody has a use case for it. I thought I'd have a use case for it, and it turns out I don't. So this is the free version of Zen Orchestra, and if you go to XOR on the free version, now you actually have the ability to create XO storage. And obviously it says, do not use this in production environment. What this is you can go in here essentially and you can create a virtual disk that has replication built in. And so you can do this as part of their hyper-converged storage. So imagine you have 3 servers with built-in storage. You could run XOStore and create a virtual hard drive and have that virtual hard drive cloned or duplicated to the other host in your environment. And instead of having to use a shared storage medium like a TrueNAS box, your host could have storage built into it, and then you'd have duplicate copies. So in an HA environment where you want, where your servers have to be up, this shared storage is constantly replicating your changes around. And if your host dies, you don't even realize it because your VM is up and running on the new machine instantly, without having to use kind of NFS or whatever as a storage backend. Since it requires 3 hosts, and I only have 2, I can't utilize it. But things like Nutanix and VMware, I think, did it. At least Nutanix does, where it's hyper-converged, and therefore you just make a VM. You tell you want how many copies of that VM you want essentially, and how many in storage in terms of whatnot, and then it automatically does it. So therefore, your VMs are running on, let's say, this host, but you don't even care about what host it's on because you have 3 hosts with 3 copies of your, whatever, or at least 2 copies of your VM. And if the host dies or you do an update on the host, it just takes over the other host instantaneously without having to do a shared storage backend. So, again, XOStore is great. I think it sounds like it's a right thing for them to be working on, but I don't have a use case for it. But I was a little hyped about it, and then I realized some of its limitations. But still a very cool thing from Zen Orchestra or XCP-ng to include It may fit a need you have, it may not, probably not, but I mean, it's there now in case you were curious. So there's two big updates from Zen Orchestra this week or last week that I thought was interesting, and I wanted to share them with you all. Hold on a second. I Alrighty. So, Man, I Will Be Dancing. Yeah, I've seen that one before. Alrighty. That's true. That is definitely true. Uh, Definitely not Austin Powers because I've never seen that movie. That's a nice upgrade. Yeah. Joe's asking David questions. Let's break it live. In this case, I'd want to fix it live. Yeah, it's weird. It has to do. The issue I have with Rivendell was that I was setting up the output of Rivendell to go to Icecast for streaming, and I was using a program called Rotter to record like an air check, and that part broke. I don't know why it's not recording files anymore, which isn't a need necessarily, but it was one of those things where I wanted to make a recording of it because I do think there's a place on YouTube for Rivendell content, and so I'd like to get back into it. And one of the biggest things right now with Rivendell is basically how to or how to make a schedule, and artist separation is a big debate over there right now on the. It's not a Discord server. It's all email based. It's still Listproc. I want to Listproc. Is that still a thing? Well, I go back on that one. But basically, it's a Rivendell list proc, and so they're discussing all kinds of stuff. So I feel like if I can get back to getting Rivendell working and can figure it out and can make some video content on it, it might do my channel well. That would make two of us, yes. I think you've made the no trust issues known. Yeah. So what Dave is referring to is XO store is Lin store in the back. Like that's what it's using. So yeah, it's literally writing across the clusters. So in a hyper-converged environment, there's nothing missed. So like the VM, if the host just crashes and dies, you didn't miss anything because it's being written to more than one place. So I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a great thing for them to have. Unfortunately, I can't utilize it because I don't have three hosts, and I also don't have enough storage on those hosts to really do anything with it. But still, the idea is pretty cool. Like, let's say you wanted to run your firewall in virtualization, you could set up pfSense as a virtual machine with your replicated, or not replicated, synchronized storage, and then literally, if the VM failed, you'd have every state, every connection would already be stored in memory, and on a physical drive, so it'd fail over instantly. I mean, when machines fail over in Nutanix world, or when you do updates in Nutanix world, like you don't even notice machines are moving around. I literally couldn't tell you where my VMs are stored or running on because it's there. It's transparent basically to the end user. You don't care what machine they're running on or what hard drive they're on because the virtualization platform has taken care of that, and it's made sure that it has copies, and servers that have a lot of writes or have a lot of usage get put on. If you have tiered storage or you have tiered servers, then it gets files that get used a lot go on the cache, or files that SSD, or the file you've never used ever, you've used once and you forgot about, gets put on the spinning rust. So it's managing that for you, which is pretty cool, and is, when it done right, works really well. List serve, list proc, list serve. Yeah. um, David and Joe are talking back and forth. You can set up a Raspberry Pi as a witness. I know you can with Proxmox. I don't know. I'm curious to know if Zen Orchestra will do the same thing. Because that'd be pretty cool. I could make that happen. Alrighty. So we talked about PCI pass-throughs, XO store. Because of my issues with TrueNAS, my MinIO box is completely tore apart and is currently dead. But I do want to get back to that MinIO as my backup to my NAS. As we talked about, my offsite backup is still not running because it's currently sitting here. Although I do have a slightly new idea for this one, this offsite backup, but we'll see. Um, and then the one thing I was kind of also was kind of thinking about was that a while ago, was during COVID, I played with MinIO and had it actually set up as like 4 virtual machines with 4 different pools, and then you write the file once and it synchronizes. I kind of want to revisit that. I'm not sure if I'm going to or not, but just because the more I think about storage and the more I'm thinking like why people love the cloud is because you can write it once and then it's duplicated. So I'd really love to kind of dive into that more. It just has me really curious about configuring that again. I tore that all down, but I'd love to just kind of build it up again and get more into that, because I just feel like that's pretty cool, where you could just write your file once and then not worry about it because it's duplicated, and it's there's write policies about keeping your files for deletion purposes. I think there's just a lot more there. I kind of wish I could explore it. So if you have any thoughts about that, I'd be curious to know what you think, if it's worth diving into again, or if it's not interesting, let me know too. I mean, I'm open to ideas because, like I said, I kind of had this vision of like, okay, you get 4, like not Raspberry Pis, but like you get 4 of these little boxes, you put some hard drives in them, you write the file once, it goes everywhere. One could live here, one could live my parents' house, one could live, at David's house, one could live at Joe's house, whatever. You could just kind of have duplicated storage, and having only written the file once. So that's kind of what I'm just kind of thinking about. Kind of like Toro mentioned earlier in the cloud. I just kind of the idea of distributed file storage is interesting to me, and I feel like there's some way to do it. I know there's Ceph and there's other things that do it, kind of that thing. I don't know. It makes me. I want to kind of revisit that because I'm just curious. More Joe and David talking back and forth. David says, I want to revisit MinIO 2. Right now, I have my Synology backing up to it. I would want MinIO take that then and replicate it over WAN somewhere off site. Yeah, like I said, I when I set it up, I had 4 virtual machines, and there was I think it was HA proxy was in front of it. So you used HA proxy to write the file to whatever server was available, and then it replicated the storage to the other nodes. And I just think that's really cool. And I'd love to get back into that more. Joe says he needs the opposite. He needs a way to back up Dropbox. What's your current backup usage of Dropbox in total storage? Just wondering. Keith Bennett is in the house. Welcome. Good to see you back. Good to see you here. I'm just curious, Joe, because MinIO is S3 compatible storage, so in theory, if it was on the web, you could just point people to it. Like you could just upload files to your MinIO, then share out the link to that file or that folder to somebody. Joe says he's closing in on 20 terabytes. They have a 30 terabyte plan. Get a Synology and use Cloud Sync. Pull the files down locally. Well, that sounds like a great option. Wait, doesn't going off of Jeremy's stream from yesterday, doesn't rclone work with Dropbox? Was that one of the things? Didn't rclone have a Dropbox tie-in? Yeah, okay, so David says rclone will work too. Because I was just thinking, I mean, like, maybe I'm complicating this, but if rclone can talk to Dropbox and rclone can talk to S3 storage, then in theory, you could just have rclone running somewhere and saying backup Dropbox to a MinIO vault or whatever, or MinIO storage or your Synology. Yeah, I don't know. Just thinking out loud, I guess. It has major export fees if you use Amazon. If you run your own, there are no exit fees. Oh yeah, egret. I knew what you meant. Yes, there are 13 likes. And earlier we had like 15 people here, so we're currently at 9 viewers and 13 likes. So That's pretty good. The question with rclone, Jeremy and I were going back and forth, was whether the rclone hosts proxies data or if the data travels service to service. That is a good question. I do not know. I'm guessing it goes through. It is the proxy. I'm guessing it's the middleman. Well, if Google said it, then it must be true. I can't even finish that statement. This service will always exist. All right. Any questions about home lab stuff? Anything else you guys want to ask? Thank you for liking my jokes. So if it proxies the data, the host is going to be very busy. If it's at home, it's going to eat up my bandwidth. If it's in the cloud, yes, that is true. That is very true. Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have to run it in the cloud somewhere if you're going to do it that route. Unless you just brought it into your house, like you had local storage, like your Synology, then you bringing it in. You obviously eat up your bandwidth, but I'm pretty sure you have two connections now, right? So could you dedicate the one just for downloading content or backing up your stuff? Would that be a use case that you could use where you just say this internet connection is for downloading stuff from the cloud as a backup? That's forgot. I was gonna say you just told me about that the other day. Like you were just talking about that the other day. See, I have good ideas occasionally. I did say occasionally. Yeah, you could do a seed. A seed. I think they call it a seed drive. I mean, my first thought is at this point is try the cloud sync as part of your Synology, and see if that works. That might be your easiest option. If not, do an R clone. That service is called Snowcone. Is that true? I mean, I've heard of the service. I didn't know it was called that. That's interesting. Alrighty. So, anything else? Oh, Tony's asking Keith if Ratzo's making an appearance tomorrow. Keith, what's your subject on tomorrow? Still what? Oh, still debating. There's Snowball, Snow One, and Snow Mobile. Oh boy. Uh-oh, Keith might have lost his mind. He's asking what's a ratso. All right. Well, one of the things I was also, so I think I asked this earlier, was who's watching the tornado coverage. So I was just, I guess I want to go back, revisit, or see if I can get an update on the storms, because I was just, it was so interesting to watch them do coverage earlier that I kind of wanted to talk about it. Oh, actually, I forgot to do. Um, can I show this? Hold on a second. That doesn't exist anymore. That doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so I can show you this. So one of the things people often say is, in terms of Zen Orchestra, is that it's hard to build, or it's hard to compile from source. And I just wanted to actually show you how actually easy it is to update. So there's a GitHub script that you can download, and oopsie, what is wrong with my keyboard? So, oops, jeez. So here's the script. You run it, and if you're installing Zen Orchestra for the first time, you just hit install. But let's say you want to update it, like mine's out of date. So I just hit update, and that's it. I literally could just sit back here, and it'll compile, or it'll build Zen Orchestra for me without having to do anything else. So I just wanted to share that real quick, because I know some people have said, not here, but other places, that, oh, Zen Orchestra is hard to build, or you got to only run their free version. No, you can run the free open source version with a script, and they make it crazy easy to do this. And you can install proxy servers for Zen Orchestra if you have a actual cloud where you have instances other places. So I just wanted to show that real quick, because they make it really easy to do this. So just wanted to throw that out there. Joe wants to see Ratso. Oops. Keith will ask him if he's available. Yes, you can follow documentation. The script is just crazy easy. And the one thing I don't know, it's weird, is, like I said, this is the free version, and it has proxies, or it does proxies and XO store, but the open source version, oh, it does proxies too. Just the open source version will not do XO store, at least not yet. And I don't think they're going to let that be available. So if you XO store, you have to, I think, run the licensed version or the free version. Five lines in a bash file. Okay. That's pretty straightforward. Because of course. Oh boy. It took her a full minute of clicking around. Oh my god. She has a master's degree? Are you- are you- Oh my god, we're so doomed. We're so doomed. So it's fully open source. Why does it not appear in the self-compiled version yet? Shouldn't that just be there in the repository already? We are doomed. We are definitely doomed. Correct. That is absolutely correct. Nope, that's definitely the problem right there. They've never lived in a world without computers or stupid easy, as I like to say. Um, we've made some things just too easy. Oh, it's available in the self-compiled version. You have to just have to compile it. The guy who wrote the script hasn't put it together yet. I think if you look at David, and I'm not sure I want to do this live, but if you come in here, oops, this is the wrong version. Is it this one? So if you come into XO Store and you make a new one, oh, here. I think that's all you have to do. I'm sure there's more to it. But basically, I think you have to install those packages on your host, and then it'll show up. I'm guessing there's more to it, but I feel like that's the key, those two are key um, to making this part work um, in the open source version. I guess I could try that. Are these available? If I go into my host, um, yeah, so there's the package. I mean, it'll install it, and then what's the other one? Ooh, that installs a lot of stuff. Installs Java. Wow. I know this is no way this is going to work, but I'm just curious. Oh, it saw it. Yeah, there's more to. Oh, that's probably not a good thing. Oh, the tool stack's probably rebooting or restarting. So, for those wondering what I'm doing, I just went in here and I installed two of the packages that make XO Store work. And then I'm guessing the control protocol or the tool stack, whatever they call it, rebooted when I did that patch because now it should come back. Uh-oh. Did I just break this? Come on. Oh, there it goes. So now the tool stack rebooted, so now my VMs show up again. Yeah, I didn't think that was gonna work, but I thought it was worth a shot. So there's something the script is missing. They won't let XO Store work in the open source self-compiled version. Working with a 23-year-old has been really culture shock. Simple things. Yeah, not surprised. Oh my God. Wow. Interesting. Oh, people. All right. So the one thing I guess I'll leave you with guys with is before the stream I was watching these guys, News 9 out of Oklahoma. They have tornado warnings right now, and the thing that made me so just interested in them is they have live storm chasers like on the payroll. So and this one looks like is that tornado on the ground right there? I can't tell. But I mean, these guys are out storm tracking live on TV and they're talking back to this guy. Like he'll say, "Hey, Tom or Larry or whatever, tell me what you're seeing." And these guys are out storm tracking these tornadoes that he's talking about here, right here on the air. And it's just incredible to watch this guy. And so he's over a green screen, and then there's people in the background who are running his radar for him and doing all this stuff in the background. And then these people, like there's Jeremy, Brandon, and Hank. They're out storm chasing here and providing their video feeds, and they're sending back their GPS coordinates, and then their weather software is putting them on the map so that this guy can see where exactly. See, they just updated. So he can see where his people are in relation to the storm. And then he tells them, like, oh, you should go this way or you should go this way. And see, here you see the team of people behind the scenes that are making this guy all this stuff work. I just found it fascinating. I mean, the amount of, I'm guessing, Dejero or LiveView or whatever backpacks or cell phones they're using. I mean, at one point on the screen, they had a shot, and in the monitors it said WX, which is weather, and it said like 147 and 148. And I'm just thinking, like, does that mean you have 148 weather sources or devices? And even if you started at 100, because some people just start naming things at 100 instead of 0, that means you have 48. We have 3. If you count the sky cams, we have 7 things. They have 48 at least. So I just thought it was really, really interesting to see how different television is in Oklahoma when it comes to weather, because we would never send people out to like live storm chase, and here they have 3 of them at least, if not more. And again, I don't know all the details. Maybe these guys aren't employees. I could be wrong. But I know at one point he just started talking to the one guy. So it was like, are you really are you getting paid for this? Are you, I mean, it was so fascinating. It was just interesting. So, I'll leave you guys with that. Again, it's Channel 9 in Oklahoma. These guys said the worst was going to be after 10 p.m. their time. So that's in basically a half hour. So I thought that was interesting. I wanted to share it with you guys. If you guys want to go watch it, they could be contractors. Yeah, they absolutely could be. I don't see him now, but basically, earlier, well, they took him down. But earlier over here, and it was actually over here too. But basically, earlier they had a helicopter up and was flying around, and he's looking right into a storm cell. And on the bottom of the helicopter, you could see the microwave transmitter that they were using to send back the picture. So, yes, you could chase your tail in Connecticut. All right, so yeah, if you guys don't have any more questions or whatever, let me, please throw them out there right now. If not, I'll probably wrap this up. Um, we went over my home lab stuff. Oh, I should share that video. This is, where is my history? So I could probably share this real quick with you before we leave. Um, this is the video I mentioned earlier about the home lab guy. Oopsie. And I just want to share this because I think this is insane. That's some guy's quote unquote home lab. I mean, these are full of servers. There's two things of servers here, all kinds of networking over there. I think he's talking about 40 gig, 100 gig, whatever it was. It's just crazy. The dude's put like one video up a day since posting this like a week ago. Talked about his power system and how it's, it can fail over and become its own grid essentially. And so I thought it was pretty cool. This is what I wish my server room looked like. It's definitely cool. So I will share that in the chat. You can also go watch that. So I'm giving you 2 recommendations. You can go watch live weather coverage and ask your questions next week, or you can go watch that guy's home data center, if you will, and dream about your home data center someday. So yeah. So anyway, you all have a good night. I will double check my schedule before I say anything. I should be back next week. I don't see anything on my calendar, so Yeah, actually, if you look at his videos, because he got a lot of questions. So he talks about what he does in his home lab here. So he kind of goes over all this stuff. It sounds like he does a lot of backup of like engineering and documentation. I totally forget all the things he did. So, but I would go watch this video. It's really short, and then I'd watch the video to explain what's in it. And then he talks about, how he powers his home lab. He has a huge UPS. And then he talks about, and this one is really cool. He has a solar system and batteries. There's 4 of his batteries for his whole house. Pretty cool. He has his Raspberry Pi kiosk, which is really weird. It's like some bash script that opens up Chrome and then switches tabs automatically. I was actually going to leave a comment that I think he should try the kiosk that Jeremy talked about, because his method for doing this seemed a little weird. So, but yeah, so check out this guy. Like I said the other day, I think he was at 137 subscribers or whatever it was. Now he's at 7.6K. And that all started, I mean, here you go. You can see 11 days ago, his video had 2K views. I didn't have that. But now his one video, just simply titled "A Quick Look at My Home Lab," got 337,000 views. So if I get time this week, I'm going to make my own version of this and shoot a real quick video on what my home lab looks like once I clean it up. But yeah. Like I said, I would watch that video. He kind of explains all of it. I think he's basically just a data hoarder, it sounds like, at least to some extent. JTCD Tech, welcome in. I think I haven't seen you before. Have you been here before? I can't remember. So first of all, there's no such thing as an HD antenna. Antennas are antennas. They receive the frequencies they receive. There's no such thing as an HD antenna. The question you need to ask is, what stations are you trying to get? If you're trying to get channels in the lower frequencies, like is in channel 13 and below, you need an antenna that does VHF. When most of the HD antennas only do UHF. So I always tell people to get an antenna that does both U and V. So V is channels 2 through 13. UHF is channels 14 and above. That's not exactly easy to figure out because some stations are on virtual channels and they're not actually on the real channel that they say they are. Rabbitears.info, I think it is, will tell you like the physical channel and the real channel or virtual channel of the local stations in your area. So I always recommend outdoor, if possible, VHF and UHF as high as possible. And then I would figure out where your TV stations actually transmit from, because, you want to get that antenna pointed in the right direction. So hopefully that answers your question. If you want any more information or want me to give you specifics, send me an email. It's j@imaketv.net, and you can send me your information or send me your question there. I'd be happy to help. I help viewers weekly at my station, help get them to figure out what's going on. And I still think the most interesting call I've had about antennas is that the new LED light bulbs will create havoc with your antenna reception on VHF stations, which is 2 through 13. Why that happens, I don't know, but LED light bulbs or LED lights in general, I guess, can create a lot of havoc with TV reception. So if you're having issues and you have LED light bulbs, try turning them off and then see what happens. So hopefully that answers your question. Like I said, send me an email if you want any more information. But yes. But to answer your question, I don't actually have a recommendation for a particular model. The only TVI antenna I have is an old Channel Master. Is it 2448? I think it is, or I forget. It's an 8-bay bow tie, and so it's like 3 foot by 3 foot, and it sits in my attic, and it points north, and I can get my market and someone else's market. So it does a great job. Yes, Joe, you can only watch TV in the dark. You have to live without any LED light bulb, any light from now on. It was a call, and it ended up being LEDs. I do not understand it. I think I've told the story before, but basically the guy called in and said, why do you always take Wheel of Fortune off the air at 7 o'clock? And I'm like, what are you talking about? We don't take Wheel of Fortune off the air. And he said, every day at 7 o'clock, I lose your station. And I was like, you lose our station every day at 7 o'clock. Well, what happens at 7 o'clock? Nothing. And the guy said, and I'm like, something happens because we don't go off the air at 7 p.m. It's something to do with your reception. And I forget how he figured it out, but basically he was like, well, my brand new under cabinet lights turn on at 7 p.m. And I'm like, well, go turn them off. And that night he turned his lights off and the TV reception was fine. So, I don't know. He got under cabinet lights and it caused his antenna to get so much noise that it, couldn't work properly on our station. Yeah, so I actually have that here. My antenna's in my attic. The cable runs down, and then it goes through a splitter. But then the splitter feeds an HD home run. We have 3 or 4 HD home runs at work. You probably saved him from cancer. You never know. I should write up a whole list of scenarios that I've had viewer calls. That should be a YouTube stream. Viewer phone calls. But yeah, HD home run's great, and really, with your HD home run, depending upon what your situation's like, it may be better to put the HD home run like close to your antenna and like put your antenna in the attic if you can like power your HD home run from power and run Ethernet up there, because you want to make the antenna cable as short as possible, and especially if you're having reception issues, you want to make that cable run as short as possible. So if you can put your HD home run with your antenna like in the attic, that would be ideal. Or if you can get your antenna outside and then you bring it in, and the minute you enter your house, you plug your HD home run in, that would be good too. David votes for war stories. Tony votes for stories. Oh, your name is James. You work for Willie Howe. And your antenna's in your garage attic. Okay. So what's the problem you're having, or were you just curious? By the way, I watch Willie. I am loving Willie's starting an ISP series. That's going to be interesting to see how that works. 'Cause I've always kind of been curious, And I watched another guy, I forget his name, but he's a fiber tech, and he's pulling fiber in Salisbury, Maryland, I believe. Yeah, and so he uses Unify gear and they're at his ISP, but he doesn't explain how it works. So the fact that Willie Howe is doing kind of the explaining how the gear works, and this guy's explaining how the fiber works, it's like, hey, I can understand the whole thing because between the two of them, I can actually understand how it works. So that's pretty cool. And I just missed a whole bunch of chat. Wow. Joe says, my man, it's Joe from Controlling. James is a VoIP expert. Okay. James, you were on the Zoom calls with Joe. Okay. Boy, I don't remember. Big beard. Yes. Okay, yes. I do remember that. Thank you. Yes. I remember now. Yes. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Yes. Now I remember exactly. Yes. And yes, I remember you being VoIP was your big thing. Yes. So you're building a new house. Yeah, I mean, um, if you can get your antenna, if you can get an outdoor antenna as high as you possibly can, run a wire for it, before the siding's on would be ideal. Just get that antenna as high as possible. That's really my biggest suggestion. And then make sure you can do both. Like I said, VHF and UHF, and then know where your stations are. Yes, that's right. He was at a hospital or something. I remember that. I'm using an outdoor antenna in my garage attic. 75 feet? I'm pretty sure it's higher than that. 75 seems low. Because there are some towers that are. I'm pretty sure our tower at work's taller than 75 feet, and we don't have it. Oh, wait, no, it is registered. There's no lights on it, though. That's what I'm thinking of. There's no lights. Hi, Steve. Welcome in. I have antennas on towers above 175 feet. Wow. Well, I guess the question is what kind of antennas? Like transmitting antennas or receiving antennas? Bowie, David. Okay. So, um, James, you get 30 channels. The last time I did a scan, I think I saw 97 channels of programming. Now, a lot of them were duplicates because I see two different markets, but I'm pretty sure I saw 97 channels. Yes, it's always good to check, but as I've always read, they can't stop you from putting up antennas for receiving TV. If someone tells you it's illegal to put up an antenna for TV reception, they would be wrong. Jacob Johnson pulls in 50 channels. I don't think you have a pool. Receiving. What is a CL1464? I don't even know what that is. CL1464. CL1464. I'm guessing it's not the same thing. And I don't know what that is. Da, 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 da. Jacob Johnson. Yes, I have the ATSC 3 version of the HD home run because the nearby market has one ATSC 3 test station. So I wanted to get that and receive that. And I can get that pretty damn well. So that's encouraging because it means it goes, and I can get that during the day. So like it's pretty encouraging and goes a long distance. So um, yeah, when I said I get 97 channels, that's sub channels too. So I mean, my station has 7 sub channels. Other stations have 6 or 7 stations. So there's 29 or 30 in our market, and then I can get parts of other markets as well. So yeah, it's okay. Glad you're here. Glad you're asking questions. That's great. Steve, oh, the SL is a UHF antenna. Okay. Um, I didn't know you had a Tableau. Did you answer if you liked it or not? um, is the ATSC a decent upgrade for a rural person? No, definitely, probably not. You would need to look at your market to see if your market has an ATSC 3 station. Most do not yet. Only the big cities do. there's reasons for that. One is population, but also the number of stations in a market. So in big cities, there are typically like 10 or 11 stations, and therefore one of them will go to ATSC3 early in exchange for putting their stations on other stations, like their channels on other stations. So, but in the smaller markets, there aren't as many frequencies, and therefore it's kind of harder for someone to go first because that person's going to lose viewers in theory. So, no, only if ATSC3 is in your market should you upgrade right now. But as ATSC3 rolls out, its coverage is, from what I can tell, better than the current standard, which is ATSC1. So eventually it'll probably come to you and it'll be better. I cover Michigan, Ohio, Western. Steve. Well, Steve, you probably cover one. You probably come to my market then. We used to have the DirecTV receive site in our building. Clearstream 4Max. Clearstream 4Max. Clearstream. Oh yeah, okay. So, I think my father-in-law has this antenna. This looks very familiar. I don't know that that would work the best. It depends on what your stations are around you. My antenna looks something like this one, only this one bends. Mine does not bend. But this is what I recommend for most people. Like if you're like you want to get good reception from a long like so when most antennas advertise that they receive, X miles away, if that number is anything more than 3 digits long, like if it's 100 miles or more, it's probably lying to you because that's not really how antennas work. So, unless you are crazy high in the sky, like who was that? Was that Steve? Yeah, Steve has antennas on towers that are tall because of his work. Um, but yeah, so, but yeah, basically, this is what I kind of recommend. I had the Channel Master version of this. The Channel Master is a brand that's very reputable. This one's cool though because it bends. Because if you're in a place where you have antenna or signals in two different directions, this could be very useful for you. If you're really want to get reception and you're far away, this is the antenna to go with. It is a huge antenna, but these antennas are designed to receive very far away in one particular direction. So if you really want to get far reception and you live far away, then go with one of these things. Toro says he uses a WinTV quad with his Linux box and broadcasts his local. Oh, cool. I've seen some people online do something similar. I think it was Australia. The guy from Australia does that or something, where he brings them in and. Hell, I'm curious, Toro. How do you do that? What's your script, or what's your how are you converting it to multicast? I am very interested in that. I'm gonna skip the last part of this comment. Get it? Yeah, ATSC is definitely not in the rural areas. But if you live near a big city, you could have it. So I would definitely check to see where ATSC 3 is, because you might be surprised. You know, you may live in a rural area, but the market you're in may actually have it. It just really depends on where you live. Sorry. USB several years ago. You have 12 of those quad bays on my antenna. Wow. Yeah, you're not gonna get many. You're not gonna get much more than 60 miles. ATSC 3 will do a lot of cool stuff. Um, they have in Dallas, I think they were testing the signal single frequency network. So they had 4 or 5 transmitting locations all in the same frequency, and using GPS to synchronize them all. And that would be very good for reception because most cities are not laid out evenly. So if you had places where, high population and you needed to cover those well, you could put a transmitter in that area and have it be on the same frequency. Oh, you modeled yours after this Australian guy? Is that it's Paul, isn't it? I'm pretty sure his name's Paul. Yeah, tall Paul. Yeah, okay. Oh, so you want to be a guest? We could do that. I could bring you on and you could show off your stuff. I think I know what unit you're talking about because I'm pretty sure the old receive site we had one of those. I should pull out some pictures and show that off since the site's dead. The site no longer exists in our building, but I could show off some of the old school ways of doing it. Do you want to do a fake TV channel within your house, or do you want to do one like IP based? Yeah, I feel like that was the model number on there. um, you definitely took the stuff. It's you. The stuff is no longer there. The only thing left is fiber that was hanging in the ceiling, and I think some RF cable, maybe. That's not the right pictures. Uh, Used to be a Cisco 7604 switch. I can tell you that much. Ericsson encoders. There was a Suncor or two. The 31 is that 3182B? I think it what it three. I think is what one of the boxes is. I can't show the pictures because I have to sanitize some of the data or some of the pictures because there's phone numbers and there's location identification markers on them. So I would have to sanitize these pictures first. It was there's an EN8130, looks like. I think that's Ericsson. Yeah. Oh, that shows I'm not even on camera. Jeez. No, yeah, the antennas are still there, the RF cables are still there, the fiber is still there, but the racks and the equipment are gone. I wish they would have left the equipment. So you can actually you can buy an ATSC encoder to actually make your own little channel. I've actually I've installed these before at a hotel, and these will generate ATSC. Pretty sure this one generates ATSC. I don't. Yeah, it'll generate QAM, ATSC, or DVB-T, all kinds of stuff. So this one will generate an actual ATSC signal that you can, in theory, plug into your antenna and feed to your TVs. It does generate a signal that would, in theory, transmit from your antenna, but it's going to be so low, so watted or so powerful that it's not really going to work very much. Kind of like your VCRs. Technically, you can plug your VCRs into an antenna and it'll transmit. But so if you wanted to do internal ATSC modulation, I would recommend something like this. Yeah, so I would look at that one. I did. We have Ericsson encoders in our SAT truck, and they're pretty good. I use them to create a two-channel MUX that I send up on satellite to save bandwidth. So we're always doing. We do a dual path satellite feed because it's $20 more or whatever it is to do dual path than it is single path, and often we want two paths anyway. So therefore, we use the Ericssons to do that, and I find them reliable, but they're also not on 24/7. Oh yeah, I'm not saying this is the cheapest option. This is just one that I personally have used. And at last check, which was years ago, they were still in service and working. So, yeah, if you want to get like crazy, you can do like a whole rack mount of them. You can get kind of crazy with some of that stuff. Oh God, what does Amazon say is available? I'm gonna close some of these tabs. HDMI to RF modulator. Oh, see this one here. This one is cheaper. Never heard of that company before. Never heard of that one. Ooh, Channel Master makes one you can buy. Wow, interesting. Has a caption input. Interesting. I mean, I like Channel Master. Generally speaking, they're pretty good products. Um, this one looks nice. I mean, based from just the pictures, I have no idea how well it works, but um, only has 3 ratings. Well, make sure there's a 30-day return policy on this one if you're going to buy this one. These things have become very prevalent now. I did not realize they were so out. Like when I looked years ago, there was like one option. I've heard of Thor. I don't know how well it works, but I've heard of Thor. Interesting. Well, anyway, I'm okay. It's 11 after. Holy crap! I gotta go. Um, all right, guys. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. To the new people, glad to see you're here. Appreciate you being here. I stream almost every Monday night. Um, so, thank you all. I appreciate you. Have a good night.